Back during the summertime around the Battleground pay-per-view, I was asking myself, who's the WWE MVP for this year, or what's even the match of the year for 2017? And I was kind of stuck for an answer. I had a really tough time, coming up with a choice. And I think a lot of other people felt the same way. But to me, the most valuable player, it's something I always bring up in my videos because I think it brings real competition to the WWE or real competition to pro wrestling, whether it be a WWE video, Ring of Honor video, or whatever. To me, it really creates. I just always felt like the WWE should always crown a most valuable player every year. I get why they don't do it. I think one of the reasons why they don't do it is because they want to keep the credibility of the championships. Because I think most times they don't want to proclaim someone to be the MVP, even if they don't win the WWE championship. But to me, the MVP in pro wrestling, it's no different than winning the MVP in the National Basketball Association or Major League Baseball or the NFL, the National Football League. It's the same criteria. If the most important player in the league or the most valuable player in the league, to me, it's like if you take that person away from the WWE, or if you take that person off of this NBA team or that NFL team, who's going to create what player is going to create that biggest hole? Like if you take him away, which team is going to suffer the most, or what promotion is going to suffer the most if you take that wrestler off of that promotion? And to me, like this year, if you took Kevin Owens away from the WWE, that would create a huge hole. It would create a huge gap in the roster because to me, Kevin Owens, maybe this isn't his best year match quality wise of his career. Maybe he had better matches in 2015 and 2016. But to me right now, if you take Kevin Owens away from the WWE, the product would not be nearly as good. And it's to right now. This is a weird year. It's a wide open year right now because a lot of guys on the roster aren't allowed to deliver. You have a part timer that's the champion on Raw, which is Brock Lesnar. You have an experimental champion on SmackDown who's not quite ready to deliver primetime pay-per-view matches in Jinder Mahal. So right now the MVP is wide open, and to me, you don't have to have the best matches to win the MVP award. There's years where you can be the most engaging character, cut the best promos, be involved in the best stories, and still be the most valuable player on the roster. We saw that with Mick Foley in ECW in 1995, a video I just did. I gave Foley the MVP because he by far was involved in the best storylines and cut the best promos on the roster. So to me, if Foley wasn't involved in ECW in 1995, the product wouldn't have nearly been as good. And the same thing with Kevin Owens this year. I think Owens really needed that defining moment to put him over the top, and he just had it. Not a lot of people get the chance to work with Vince McMahon. Not a lot of people or not a lot of wrestlers in the past have had the opportunity to really get themselves over at Vince McMahon's expense. I mean, the only guys you can think of that have done it in the past are guys like Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, even Zach Gowen. Gowen did it because of his situation with his leg. But you get my point. Even Randy Orton, was able to, kick Vince McMahon in the head and elevate himself to WrestleMania main event status. And I think the same thing with Owens. I think what we saw with Vince and Owens is something that's going to catapult Owens to the main event of WrestleMania, which is the equivalent of winning the WWE championship or the NBA championship in the WWE. It's the pinnacle of the pro wrestling industry business. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen with Kevin Owens. And the fact that Owens and Shane is main eventing Hell in a Cell. They're getting they're the ones that are going to sell the pay-per-view. That match is the Hell in a Cell match. Nakamura and Jinder Mahal, because of the mix of styles and the greenness of both guys with the WWE style, they're not going to main event Hell in a Cell. So it's going to be Owens and Shane, which is a can't miss match. I think it's a great move from a financial standpoint for the WWE. I think a lot of people are going to buy WWE Network subscriptions based off of that match. So that anytime you can main event a pay-per-view when you're not the champion, I think it speaks to how valuable you are to the company. It's a weird thing too, because, I'm thinking about it, what Vince did for Owens, you don't normally see, Vince do that for guys. And I think one of the reasons he did it is, he sees the potential in Owens. He sees the potential, but at the same time, he still made the crack at Owens' weight problem. Look in the mirror. How could you respect anybody, by looking in the mirror? Vince made that comment to Owens. And the reason I say it's funny is because Vince has always been, the Vince stereotype has been Vince has always had a hard-on for size, or a hard-on for guys that have great physiques or spend a lot of time in the gym, like a Hulk Hogan or a John Cena. But at the same time, it kind of brought me back to thinking about, I think, looks and physique is not the most important thing that Vince looks at, looking back on it, because if it was, then why is Cesaro still, a tag team mid-carder, and why is Kevin Owens, on the verge of becoming, the man, or main event of WrestleMania caliber right now? I think Vince is placing more value on personality, on how the guy would react or carry himself in a promo, and Owens is that guy. To me, Owens, he's what you want to build the brand around, because the guy has lived and died the WWE since WrestleMania 11, since he was growing up watching WWE since 1995. He's one of those guys that doesn't give a fuck about, real sports. Everything to him is wrestling. He named his kids after wrestlers. I think he named his son Owen after Owen Hart. So that just shows you that Owens, he's just one of those guys that eats, sleeps, lives, and breathes the pro wrestling business. He's the real deal. He's kind of like the Kevin Durant of the WWE. I bring up Durant because Durant is someone that, he doesn't give a fuck about anything but basketball. And I feel like Owens is the same way with wrestling. I'm not even like as a diehard of a fan as Kevin Owens, but I think Owens growing up as a fan, him having the personality that he does, it's what's going to separate him from, I think, a lot of guys, down the road. And we talk about that if factor. Vince doesn't see the if factor in Cesaro, but I think he sees it in someone like Kevin Owens, because the guy just loves wrestling. And I think that's the most important reason why Owens has been as successful as he has. I mean, the transition from Owens going from Ring of Honor to the WWE, to me, like, it feels smoother than anyone so far. It just feels more natural than even, Bryan Danielson and CM Punk. As of right now, Danielson and Punk have had more success, even probably Seth Rollins as well, more success than Owens. But it just feels like right now, when Owens' career is over, I think Owens is going to have the best career out of any of them. So, when we get to that point. So overall, man, I thought that segment was great. There's some controversy about Vince blading and Vince taking the headbutt shot, but to me, this is just this is the good side of Vince. This is Vince, sacrificing himself for the business. When it's all said and done, I don't think anyone loves the business more than Vince McMahon. And, it just shows you that he'll do anything, to elevate someone who he really has faith in. And I think Owens is that guy. And it definitely makes sense for the storyline as well. I know Shane's involved. Stephanie's reaction was great. I mean, she looked like such an evil bitch, and she looks like such a slut, but, in a good way, though. I mean, I just think this has potential to be a great storyline, because Owens he's such a natural when it comes to the WWE style. This Owens authority storyline, I think it's just so much more engaging than what Owens did or what Kevin did in Ring of Honor with Jim Cornette. It's just so much more engaged. It just feels so much more natural. And yeah, man. So without a doubt, no matter how the rest of the year goes, I just think it's going to be very difficult for anyone to surpass Owens as the WWE MVP. I think he pretty much locked it up with that segment with Vince. I thought that segment was great. I don't care what anyone says. It takes a lot to actually outshine Vince McMahon. And I thought Owens, I thought he stepped up to the plate, and I thought he outperformed him in that segment. But Vince was great as well, though. Him taking that bump and taking that headbutt. You know, whether the juice was real or not, you know, who knows? But I thought it was a great segment, and it's, to me, this is going to catapult Kevin Owens to the you know, possibly the main event of WrestleMania. If not this year, definitely by the next year. So I just want to say we finally have an MVP for this year. I think the WWE is looking pretty good in the fall so far. You know, No Mercy, they're delivering two, you know, dream matches. I know their word dream match gets kind of tossed around a lot, but bottom line, you got two matches that I think a lot of people will be willing to pay to see, with you know, Brock and Strowman, and then you got you know, Cena and Reigns, which has, you know, kind of taken on a life of its own with its, you know, bizarre style of you know, shoot style booking right there. But you know, it's definitely been an interesting feud. And then you get the Hell in a Cell match with Shane and Owens. You know, people crap on the SummerSlam match, but you know, the SummerSlam match kind of being disappointing. You know, that's what's kind of you know, that interaction between Shane and Owens was worth it, so they could have this great Hell in a Cell match and feud, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. You know, and it's something that you can't pass up, because after what Shane did at WrestleMania with Undertaker, you just don't know what's going to happen. So I definitely think you have a great clash of personalities, and you have two guys that are willing to, you know, put their bodies on the line and just give it everything they have. And you rarely get, you know, the combination of both of that. So I think that makes Shane and Owens kind of like a can't miss match for Hell in a Cell. I think they're doing another pay-per-view in October, TLC. I think that's going to be a Raw pay-per-view. Then a Survivor Series is going to be in Houston. You get NXT TakeOver in Houston, and then Survivor Series. And then December, you're going to have Clash of Champions. So the pay-per-view lineup, a little bit too many pay-per-views, but not too many where I think it's going to oversaturate the market to the point where you're going to get sick of seeing guys wrestle. So I definitely think this is a rare case where the end of the fall looks pretty good, and hopefully someone else can emerge as another MVP candidate to challenge Owens. But to me right now, I think Kevin Owens is the WWE MVP by far.